Can you believe that in 2026, you could get abused for liking an animated YouTube series? As this user says, if you're a BFDI fan, get away from me, you are disgusting. Recently, the hate has been spiraling even more, from the internet into real life. As this fan asks, have you ever been bullied at school because of object shows? And the thing that stops you isn't the question, it's that loads of people answered it. And that the question assumes the answer is yes, with the replies mostly there to confirm by how much. One of them answered like this: I've been told multiple times when I went to school that object shows are stupid and I'm stupid and childish for watching them. I wouldn't say I was bullied, I was more harassed a few times about it. But scroll down the same question and you get the other answer entirely, the one that might be even sadder. Nope, people don't really care. And there it is, the whole problem with object shows in 2 replies. If you're an object show fan, the world has 2 settings for you. It either picks on you for it, or it can't be bothered to know you exist. Hated or ignored, take your pick. Now, I'm not about to tell you that object show fans are an oppressed people. Nobody's writing a charity single. But the ignored half is genuinely strange once you look at the numbers, because object shows are not small. One fan put it perfectly: when you're on the inside of the community, it seems massive, but strangely, you barely hear outsiders even acknowledge its existence. And calling object shows massive isn't just loyalty talking, it's just true, in a way that's genuinely hard to get your heads around. So, before we go any further, what exactly is an object show? Well, the format is almost stupidly simple, which is part of why people sneer at object shows and part of why they work. You take a load of inanimate objects, a pencil, a leafy branch, a bubble, a literal flame, give each one a face, a pair of stick arms and a personality, and then you make them compete. It's Survivor basically, or Total Drama, but the contestants are stationary. They're set challenges, they form alliances, they betray each other, and at the end of each episode, one of them gets eliminated, often by viewer vote, which is the bit that turned a cartoon into a participatory sport. The whole genre kicked off in 2010 with one object show, Battle for Dream Island, BFDI for short, made by a pair of 12-year-old twins. Before we get onto BFDI, most of you guys watching this right now aren't actually subscribed. If you want to support me in doing more weird deep dives like this, then please hit the button. It's free, it's easy, and it really helps me out. Thank you. Back to the video. So let me give you the numbers because they're the parts that genuinely break your brain. The channel that started all of this is called Jack N Jellify. It has over 3.25 million subscribers. Its videos have been watched collectively more than 2.5 billion times. Yes, I said billion. The first episode of BFDI alone, a crude little flash cartoon 2 kids uploaded in 2010, has now been seen over 74 million times. New episodes routinely clear 4 million views in a way most television shows would quietly kill for. And that's just one channel. There are somewhere north of 1,700 separate object shows, a fan wiki with over 16,000 pages, hundreds of credited creators. And almost nobody outside it has the faintest idea that object shows even exist. Here's the detail that says it best. For around 16 years, through the billions of views, through the millions of subscribers, BFD did not have a Wikipedia article because it couldn't get one. Editors kept trying and Wikipedia kept knocking it back because by their rules, being enormously popular isn't the same as being notable. You need newspapers and magazines to have written about you, and none had. At one point, they salted the page, which is the Wikipedia term for blocking a title from being recreated, like sowing a field so nothing grows there again. It got so routine that WP BFDI became editor shorthand. A little in-joke for yes, it's massive, no, it still doesn't count. So, BFDI was watched billions of times by a generation of children for over a decade, and the internet's own encyclopedia, the website that basically has an article on every road junction in Belgium, looked at BFDI and went, never heard of it. A writer at Slash Film summed object shows up about as well as anyone, calling them what old people used to call an underground phenomenon, and then adding the line that really lands it. If your kid knows Skibbity Toilet, they know about object shows. There is an entire layer of culture, vast and busy, that runs almost entirely on one platform and skews young enough that, if you're off the platform, object shows may as well be happening underwater. Although, maybe saying the audience skews young undersells it, because there's a surprising number of adult fans too. Plenty plenty of them watching quietly rather than advertising that fact. And the outsiders who do stumble across object shows tend to have the same dawning realization that this one did. This has always been one of those things where I'm like, it's kind of weird, but I guess it's for kids, so whatever. And then it turns out the fans are all fully grown adults. Whatever the case, object shows are invisible to the vast majority of people. The strange part is what happens when that invisibility breaks. Because the moment an object show crosses the path of someone who isn't already a fan, the reaction tends to skip straight past indifference and go straight to disgust. Indeed, TikTok seems to be the main source of BFDI hate. People uploading videos to announce that BFDI is for little kids, vomiting emoji attached. People posting BFDI sucks shizzle. One person made a whole numbered video tearing object shows apart like a manifesto. BFDI is for babies at number 1. They are the biggest content farm a few slides later, which is a lot of structure to bring it to hating a cartoon about a sad little leaf. Most object show haters seem to know nothing about it and yet speak with total confidence. As this user says, I know nothing about BFDI, but I hate the fandom so much. Ugh. At least they're honest. The hatred turned up, fully formed. And actually, watching any object shows was apparently optional. And the fans, to their credit, have actually tried to work out why. There's a thread where object show fans pick apart why the hate runs so hot, and the theories are sharp. One points out that plenty of people just watch like 30 seconds of the first episode of season 1 and then assume that's the whole show. Another fan gets even closer to it. They look at the bad parts of the community and BFDI season 1 and write it up as a slop baby show. And the low point relayed by one slightly stunned fan was the time someone on Twitter called it BFDI worse than 9/11, which is so wildly out of proportion. It's a cartoon about household objects competing for a prize after all, that it stops being a criticism of the show and starts being a confession of the person who said it. As this fan very adeptly puts it, I saw someone say how BFDI is the indie show equivalent to that one friend in the friend group who has been there the longest but always gets left out and joked about by others despite essentially being a D1, and I couldn't agree more. The more you think about that, the more true it seems to become. BFDI gets treated like the friend who's been around the longest and somehow gets the least respect for it. Ribbed on reflex by people who genuinely miss him if he left. It's a gentler, more grinding kind of disrespect than hatred. So then, that's the love and that's the hate. And I should be honest about where I sit because, honestly, it's at neither of those two poles. A couple of years ago, I'd never heard of object shows. And I mean that literally, I genuinely did not know they existed. Then my channel started picking up and object shows kept turning up in my comments again and again. People mentioning BFDI like I was obviously supposed to know what that was. So eventually I went and looked. And my first go of it, I'll be straight with you, it didn't quite take. I watched some of series 1, the early, rough 2010 stuff, and I came away thinking, yeah, alright, I see why people clicked off. It didn't especially grab me. But recently, at the recommendation of my cat Lucky, I went back. Seriously, partly I went back because object shows kept following me around, and partly because of a brilliant video by a creator called Chopu Twopu, all about how strange and confusing this whole community really is. And going back, watching the new object shows, I genuinely liked it. It's actually really good, which, again, it surprised me. And here's the thought I can't shake, the thought that's kind of the point of this whole video. My routine, never heard of object shows, bounced off the old episodes, came back later and got it, might be turning into the normal route into object shows. Because BFDI is, right now, finally getting the kind of recognition it's gone 16 years without. So maybe I'm actually not the odd one out here. Maybe I'm just slightly ahead of a lot of people who are about to walk the same path. But to understand why object shows inspire that much heat at the edges, the shrines and the gallows, you have to look past the cartoons themselves and look instead at the people who gather around them, because that's where it gets messy. You see, the object show community is famous, inside animation circles anyway, for being one of the most dramatic fandoms on the internet, dramatic in the soap opera sense, the kind that never ends and nobody can leave. Some of it is the stuff that every fandom has, just turned up to a strange volume. Shipping, for instance. In most communities, arguing about which characters should get together is a bit of fun. In the object show community, people have defended their preferred pairings, Fiery and Leafy, Coiny and Pin, as though they were settled historical fact, and treated fans who disagreed as enemies worth pushing out. Yes, I wouldn't be surprised if there are object show ships that people have fallen out over the way families fall out over wills. Then there's the call-out culture, which is where things get properly intense. The community runs on public accountability the way some towns run on gossip. Openly maintained lists of so-called problematic members, whole threads dedicated to documenting who did what to whom. Some of it is fans doing genuinely important work, flagging real and serious behaviour. And here's the part that really matters for our story today, because most people never actually see the object shows. What they see is the drama leaking out. A call out here, a ship war there, a thread title with the word toxic in it, and then they build their entire opinion of the genre out of that, without ever watching a single episode. So, they see the smoke, and then they assume that the whole building's rotten, as this fan summarises perfectly. They look at the bad parts of the community and BFDI Season 1 and write it up as a slop baby show. And basically, loads of people seem to be doing exactly that. They take the worst of the fandom, add the roughest, oldest episodes, staple them together and call the whole thing worthless. It's an easy mistake to make, in fairness, because the object show community is very good at putting its worst foot forward, loudly, where everyone can see it, while the cartoons themselves, unfortunately, stay quiet in the background. Why do you think that the object show community gets so much hate? I'd really love to hear from actual object show fans themselves, so please let me know in that comment section below. I'm absolutely fascinated to hear your guys' thoughts. So let me do the thing that the haters never actually bother to do. Let me talk about the actual cartoons. And let me hand that over to the people who've loved object shows for years, since they'll do it better than I can, being the bloke who only just turned up in the community. Although, in fairness, I did do that video where BMO plagiarized BFDI, so do go and check that out. Anyway, when you ask the fans why they love object shows, when the answers come back, they're warm and specific. I love it for the animation, story, and characters. I first loved the characters for their designs and voices, but then fell in love with the story and animation of BFDI and the other seasons. With each episode, it keeps getting better, and I am very excited to see what comes next. That's the way someone talks when they're in love with a story. Falling for the characters first, then the writing, then counting down to the next episode. Which is how people talk about any show they adore, whether it's about a sentient pencil or a chemistry teacher making meth. Another fan added, I like it because the episodes are fun, the characters are lovable, the atmosphere is silly and enjoyable, and some of the people in the fandom are actually kind and cool to talk to. Yes, for all their drama, for all the call-outs. This fan's actual lived experience of the object show community is that they're cool and easy to talk to. That's the warmth that gets on with things, whilst the fire takes all the headlines. But the comment that stopped me in my tracks was this. Object shows inspired me to make animations and keep going. I probably would have failed at YouTube if it weren't for BFDI. One person introduced me to it and I loved it, quick to make a parody. Now I have over 1,000 subs, and I wouldn't have reached that goal on a lifetime if it weren't for Jack and Jellify. I subbed at around 600k. Seriously, you can call object shows cringe, you can call object shows childish. The one thing you honestly can't call them is worthless. Because worthless things, they don't turn the people watching into people making. That's about the most valuable thing any piece of media can do, and a genre built by two kids in a bedroom has been quietly doing it at scale for over a decade. Which is, when you think about it, the very same reason I'm making this video. My audience pushed me toward object shows. A creator's video pulled me back in. And now I'm making this. The genre everyone loves to write off keeps doing the one thing its critics never seem to manage. It makes people want to create. And the rest of the world is slowly, finally starting to catch up. BFDI has finally got its recognition. 3 Webby nominations, including, fittingly, one in a category literally titled Weird. BFDI also has episodes that screen in actual cinemas, sold out, $27 a ticket for a show that's free on YouTube the next morning. Yes, after 16 years underwater, object shows are finally coming up for air, as this fan says. Being an object show fan in 2024 feels like being an anime fan in 2017. And if you remember what happened to anime after 2017, how the thing your weird mate was into quietly became the most dominant force in pop culture on Earth, then that's a genuinely exciting place for object shows to be standing in right now. So, things are getting better, and it's tempting to wrap this all up with a bow and call it a happy ending. Except, go back to where we started. Go back to that kid getting harassed at school for liking a cartoon about a pencil. Because recognition, oftentimes, it doesn't actually reach the playground. A Webby nomination is no use to you when someone's laughing at your phone background. And the contempt, it's sunk way deeper than school anyway. It's actually worked itself into the infrastructure of the internet itself. I know that sounds crazy, so I'll show you what I mean. On Pinterest, if you search the words "I don't have friends," one of the things it serves you is a wall of object show characters. Ruby, Blocky, Book, grinning, delighted, the happiest little objects you've ever seen, filed automatically under loneliness. And in case you're tempted to write that off as a fluke, a fan actually confirmed that it's a known thing. In their words, BFDI images have always been tagged as "I don't have friends" on Pinterest, which is genuinely bleak if you actually follow it through. A child gets harassed for object shows at school, comes home, opens an app, and then the app itself has decided that liking this thing means you've got nobody. Yes, the hatred for object shows is wired so deep into the internet that the recommendation engine just takes it as read. So yes, object shows are finally getting their recognition at long last after all these years. The cinema screenings and the Webby nods and the slow creep towards respectability are all real and all genuinely lovely. And yet, it's also still genuinely hard to be a fan of object shows nowadays in 2026. Both of these things can be true at the same time. The little show about objects with faces is beloved by millions, watched billions of times, and somehow still ends up the punchline. Maybe one day that changes for good. Going by the last 16 years, however, I wouldn't hold your breath. Smash that like button if you want to see more object show content from your boy Snipe Snap. I'm happy to oblige, but I want to see a lot of likes. Anyway, here's to you. Snipe, Snap, out.